Probably the most frequent comment I get across every video on my channel is, where do you get your music from? So I thought it's finally time to address this question once and for all. If you're looking for a TLDR version of this video, well then the quick answer is I've used Epidemic Sound for literally every video that I have created in, I want to say, the last 4 or 5 years, and it's probably even longer than that. So that's the really quick answer, but I want to take some time to unpack, firstly, why I use Epidemic Sound, how I utilize their service most effectively, and also why I think it's one of the best options for creators at the moment. Now, let me be clear up front. This video is not sponsored by Epidemic Sound. They did not pay me or even ask me to make a video on their platform. But that said, I did just recently join their ambassador program about a month or so ago. And so that means anytime you use my link to sign up to their platform, I do get a kickback. So keep that in mind. But as I said, that was only about a month ago, and I've been using their service unapologetically for the last 4 or 5 years. So let's start with why I use Epidemic Sound. A number of years ago, I was signed up to a YouTube network, and as a part of this network, they signed me up to Epidemic Sound. So in a sense, I kind of just fell into it through their recommendation. But then I parted ways with that network, and at that time, I was still a fairly small channel in terms of the revenue that was coming in, and so I had to decide whether or not I wanted to keep using Epidemic Sound and cover the cost myself. And of course, I did. The reason being, once you've signed up to their platform, any song that you use is ready to go in regards to copyright. It's one of the biggest hassles if you aren't on a platform like Epidemic Sound, where you are constantly on the lookout for great tracks that are legally fine to use, but that also don't sound like trash. And that's another really big factor for me staying with using Epidemic Sound, in that the music available on their platform is seriously of phenomenal quality. I'm yet to find a track that is anything but highly professional. The other really key factor that makes using Epidemic Sound so great is that you can download individual instrument stems for every single track available on their platform. Now, some other platforms do also have this feature, but if you're not aware of what a stem is, this is basically an isolated instrument track. So for example, with Epidemic Sound, when you download all of a song's stems, you get access to the following: an isolated drum track, an isolated bass track, as well as an isolated instruments track and an isolated melody track. Now, when you line all of these up in your NLE of choice, you get the full originally mixed song. But with each of these tracks being separated and on their own layers, you can take out certain layers altogether, or you can readjust parts of the song more seamlessly. And I honestly use this in just about every video that I make. But before I show you how to do that in a real world example, I thought it might be helpful to dial things back a little bit and show you the entire process of using Epidemic Sound to even choose songs, and then show you how I go about using them in my videos. So on the Epidemic website, there's a couple of ways that you can go about searching for music. You can either navigate to the browse section and filter through tracks via genre types, or you can also navigate through curated albums that creators have put together, which often have really helpful titles for specific video types. But I personally tend to find myself more regularly using the browse section of the site. And for the most part, I find myself often going back into either the beats, funk, or R&B and soul categories. I do sometimes jump into the other categories, but these are the ones that I regularly sift through. Now let's say if we jump into R&B and soul, for example. From here, the first thing I do is jump over to the vocals section and enable instruments only. Now for each song on Epidemic Sound, you can of course just download all of the stems and then disable the vocals, but in this research phase, being able to listen to the tracks without vocals on the site itself, I find to be really helpful and time efficient. And then it's just a matter of sifting through the songs available. You can, of course, refine the search even more so if you want to. And I often find myself using this similar feature over here, which let's say you find or have used a song in the past that you really like the sound of. If you click on this icon, it will bring up a massive list of songs that the platform deems is similar in one way or another. This feature has saved me loads of time and is particularly helpful for those time crunch situations. Now, generally speaking, I'll start by just downloading the full track without any stems, because if I can save some time and use the full track, then happy days. But more often than not, I will find myself coming back and downloading all of the stems. The reason for this is, let's say I'm editing a project in Premiere Pro and I've downloaded a sweet track that just works perfectly for the first half, but then partway through the song, a huge synth sound comes in and just overwhelms any other audio that's in the video, namely my voiceover. Here's a quick example of that. Now, I could just fade out the music and switch to a different track at that point, but more often than not, that just doesn't feel right. So if instead I load all of the stems into a sequence in Premiere Pro, I can now come to that part of the track that was overwhelming the rest of the audio in my video, make a simple cut, and then delete that huge synth part. And now it sounds like this. And to be honest, for a lot of my videos, I usually end up switching off either the melody or the instrument tracks altogether and just leaving the drums and bass, which I find gives me lots of flexibility in making the video flow how I want it to. It also makes it easier to end tracks properly. And when I say properly, I mean they end where they're supposed to end rather than just fading off halfway through the song. And this is because with the isolated audio tracks, any cuts in the music become virtually impossible to pick up on. Here's a quick example of a track that I want to end slightly earlier without using the stems. And now here's me utilizing stems to help make that transition even more seamless. And that's it. I cannot stress how useful it is having individual instrument stems, and that, along with the fact that I have this massive library of highly professional songs that are legal for me to use in all of my videos, is why I can genuinely recommend that you at least check out Epidemic Sound. And if you do, then I would really appreciate you using my link down in the description below, which helps to support the channel. Aside from that, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you later.